It's fine. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Afternoons with the Ambassador. And happy that you all were able to join me this afternoon. We're going to be continuing our review of Babylon 5 Season 1. And today we're going to be covering the episode Born to the Purple. And to everyone in the chat that's coming in, I know more will come in later on. Shea Stormdragon, my moderator, thank you for always being here supporting the channel. Axstar Comics, Trey, good to see you, sir. And today I've got with me the Nobody Geek, but he is far from a nobody, Jesse. And I'm hoping Adega Outlaw will be joining us here shortly if he is able to. I know he is sometimes running behind, and I obviously understand. So with all that being said, folks, we will go ahead and get started. Jess, thank you for coming on today. Appreciate it, as always.
And I just did what you did in the background. I forgot to mute the mic.
It's okay.
No, I'm very happy to be here. I'm honored to be here with you as always, Ambassador. I love this. Actually been promoting as best you want to get away from some negativity and some positive reflection and have a good time. Come on over here and give it a shot.
So, and thank you. And to the chat, Adega, I understand. I got it and everything. Life takes precedence over this. So no worries, man. If you can hop on and everything at some point, that's fine. If you're not able to, don't worry about it. Just enjoy the stream, enjoy the discussion. So I did DM you a link and everything. So as always, if you can get on here, great. Anyway, yeah, we're covering season 1, episode 3, Born to the Purple, and this is our first real foray into a more character-centric episode. So, well, we're dealing with the ambassador from the Centauri Republic. We're dealing with Londo, the madman, one of the crazy ones himself and everything. And honestly, this has a very good A story, and it has a good, compelling B story as well that's surrounding Susan Ivanova and everything. We'll get into her here in a few minutes. But Jess, your thoughts on this episode? What did you think of it and everything just overall?
Well, overall, just now, since I've been invited into this, I've decided I'm going to use this as a good time to on 5 again. So, you know, as I told you prior to coming on here, I actually sat down and watched the episode again. And I've got to be honest, I forgot a lot of what was in this episode, but you know, the layers of the A and the B story. I mean, it's not uncommon to have an A and B story in a lot of shows back at this time, but normally the A story is the most important, and the B story is the lesser to a degree. But when you watch the show and you see the A story and the B story, they are so powerfully interwoven stories for in have their own episode. But
hey, Jess, you may want to go off camera to clean up your audio.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, my friend, how you doing?
Oh, just pulling my hair out.
I understand.
My son, I have a special needs son. It's totally sorry sidetracked, but this is what I've been dealing with for hours.
No,
he has a special needs trust that takes care of everything for him, and they're supposed to pay for insurance for his van. It's got a hydraulic lift where he can put his wheelchair and everything in there. And somehow between insurance receiving and expiration of the policy, things got mixed up. So I've been trying to reinstate the policy, and it's been a fun morning.
As someone who also has special needs, obviously not in the level you have, but as someone who's had to deal with special needs, medical stuff, yeah, I get where that frustration comes in. Hands down.
Yeah, guys, obviously I don't have that difficulty, but I fully sympathize with you all. It does stink. It sucks. Sometimes insurance can be a pain in the neck. So,
well, if it was just the insurance, that'd be fun. But I've been jumping through a little more than my fair share of hoops lately. But it's all right. It's all good. I'll try and be here for a while.
And I appreciate it. We won't keep this too terribly long and everything. Maybe just a little, right around an hour, give or take, because that's usually how long it takes to cover an episode. So we had, Daga, we had just literally gotten started. We're covering Born to the Purple, like I mentioned. Focuses a little more on Londo. This is more of a single, well, not a single story arc, but or episode arc, but still an interesting one and everything. We also get a good B story with Ivanova and Garibaldi. So, being one that's watched these or anything, what's your thoughts on this episode?
Well, I am going by memory because I haven't had a chance to rewatch this one. This is the one where he has a celebration, isn't it? Is the big party?
No, this is the one where he gets he's involved with the dancer Adira.
Yeah. No, I watched that one recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's my thoughts on it? It's the beginning of showing, I hate to use the word for an alien, but humanity for someone who's not supposed to have that type of feelings for somebody.
Yeah. You've got a very interesting dynamic here between Londo and Adira, because he doesn't realize initially that she's actually a slave. And she was one that was under contract from the Centauri government. For whatever reason, she got tied to this real scumbucket Trachis. And I could have swore that it was David Warner that played Trachis, but the voice isn't right. The face is right, but the voice isn't right, because David Warner has done both Babylon 5, as far as I can recall, and Star Trek and everything in the past. He had done the movies and so on, and I think he was even in a few of the TNG episodes, possibly. But honestly,
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Loki, and Loki. Thank you for joining in. Glad you could be here, sir, as always. So, but yeah, this episode very much is a very much of it's a personal story, but it deals with, once again, both deals with political intrigue, and it's a. I just rewatched this. I've watched it several times before, and I love the interplay between Londo and Sinclair, because you get to see a little bit more of that devious side of Sinclair that Londo's like, I didn't know you had this in you, Commander. And
he can be quite scary sometimes.
He can. He very much can. So, yeah. The really neat thing about this episode also is we get to see a little bit more of Veer interacting with Londo, and his that moment where he actually gets to represent the Centauri Republic in the negotiations, and the one thing that Londo says is, "Don't give away the homeworld." He's like, "No, of course not, absolutely not, Ambassador." So, but
and
yeah,
this says the same thing.
Yeah, to Dakoth. I know her. I know his second attaché is Natoth, but this is Dakotha, I think it is, or something along those lines. But yeah, and he oversleeps because he spent a evening with Adira, and Jakar and Sinclair and Talia Winters are so absolutely frustrated with Londo not showing up for the negotiations for the Euphrates sector, I think it is. And to Londo, it's like, who cares? But yeah, guys, your thoughts on that?
Well, again, like I brought up, it shows that Londo is a statesman.
Mm-hmm.
He's a patriot.
Mm-hmm.
He is born to the purple. I love the line that comes on in a future episode where it's, "You're cute, and you're cute too. I'm cute also, but in purple, I'm stunning." That's one of my favorite lines of the whole show. But anyway, when it comes to the heart, believe it or not, Londo has a big one. Even though he has 3 other wives, and he calls them plague, pestilence, and I can't remember what the third one he calls.
Death.
Yeah,
the one who.
Yeah,
that the one who at least he knew where he stands with her?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
he divorces the other two and keeps another one. Keeps the other one that. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves now.
But either way, he never really shows this side of him again. Maybe little bits and pieces here and there, but how he can be so devoted to someone and open himself up, even when he's been wronged by the person. It shows a side of Londo that, they open it up for you and then they kind of close it down and say, okay, here's his heart, but the rest of it's going to be statesman from here on out.
Yeah, because for Londo, while he does care about this woman very deeply, at the same time he is concerned about his position within the Centauri government, and he doesn't want to see the Centauri government go under either because of this dirty dealer Trachis. So, yeah, he's ruled by his heart, but at the same time, he's trying to do what's best for his planet and his people, obviously. So,
that's an interesting thing, if you don't mind me segueing there, Ambassador.
Sure.
Let's look at the intricacies here. We get a lot Tory Republic, which is, if you think about it, is really an oxymoron because they are literally almost virtually an absolute monarchy. So it's almost like it's almost like they got ahead of themselves in the Roman Republic and this didn't change the name. I mean, that's the best thing but you look at him, you look at the Narns, you look at you look at everybody who doesn't, but this show shows you the patriotism these particular characters have for their own people. I'm bad indifferent. You could say this, but the patriotism they have. No, Adega is right. This is one of those few times you saw a vulnerable side of Londo. And Londo, I think, really kind of said it best when he described as the Centauri and I'm going to try and do Peter's voice because dude just had it perfect, and I'm not going to try and butcher that because he just did it perfect. Was it Peter? Was it? Yeah. And
Peter Jurassic.
Just like, yes, Peter Jurassic. I was going to say Jurassic, and I was like, wait a minute. Am I saying that right, or am I thinking Jurassic Park?
You are. Well, and fun fact about Peter Jurassic, he actually has a cameo in Tron, the first one.
No way.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look for it. Well, hey, I'm going to have to look for that now. But no, I mean, he's, we're supposed to, as Centauri, especially people in his position, they're supposed to acquire power, position, this is the goal. And he's gotten to a point in his life where he realizes for this one moment, power wasn't enough because in all reality, and I think it goes to a nice allegory, what good is power if you have no one to share it with?
Yeah.
Or what is good as being at the top of your game if you have no one to share it with? He literally felt like he just wanted to share himself. Maybe his power eventually, maybe his wealth if he could have, but right now he just wanted to just take the mask. I think he even said it. He wanted to take the mask off or, take that part of his life off. And it was just an awesome A story. And then B story, I'm gonna wait on you to bring that one up. But man, you want to talk about a powerful story and the interaction between Garibaldi and Ivanova, and just I'll say what, that woman is one of the most underrated actresses because I was watching her physical emotions and her eye movement, her body language, and I'm just like, she is really putting. I'm like, but as now I'm like, she's putting everything. I mean, I literally thought she was going to cry.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, I take it you brought it up and everything towards the beginning here. Straczynski puts a human face on these aliens, even though they are obviously different from us. but they still have the same feelings and emotions. They still have this. In some ways, they have the same aspirations, even though they come from different cultures and different backgrounds. In many ways, while they are alien, they're still feeling, emoting, rational beings. They're not. They may just have different color of blood, but at the same time, they still have a soul. They still have a heart, whether they recognize the fact if they have a soul or not.
Yeah, I think for the most part, he does that with just about every species. And then he highlights, and this is just foreshadowing, some species will have certain things in a greater regard than others. Like there's an entire species that gets wiped out simply because of pride, their own pride. And there's another one that comes very close to it because they don't want to face up to the wrongs that they did. But then they got the total, complete alien to everything we understand, which would be the shadows. So with the ones that most of the story relates with or partially relates with, he does show them with some significant amount of emotions. And I don't know who did the casting, but to have Peter Jurassic and Castells,
Andreas Castoulis.
Castoulis, yeah. Talk about having Garibaldi. All of them are really, really good, but those two together make the entire arc. I mean, literally from beginning to end. Londo and Jakar, and having them express their emotions on the whole myriad of different levels that they're going to be on throughout the whole show. This is just one of them. But it makes them far more relatable, having things that humans can relate to, such as emotions. You know, we know, at least reasonable people know what it means to be in love and what you will do for it, whether it be a family member or a romantic love. And that is I have to do for a group of authors. I'm going to be posting it in a couple of weeks. Article on doing suspense, and suspense specifically. It's not tension or those type of things. Suspense is specifically when you are emotionally tied to a character or group of characters. And what Straczynski's doing here is, granted, the own episode has its own little bit of suspense, but when Londo gets put into harder or more difficult situations, you're going to be so emotionally bound to him that the suspense becomes more real and really grabs hold of you. And that's where people like me that love the show, it really has a hold on not just the visuals, not just the story, but it grabs your emotions too. And to have Jurassic to be such a good actor and to be expressive. I mean, even his smile, you sit there, he's leaning back on the couch looking at her, gives her this jewel that's been in his family for hundreds of years. And it's not a big, broad smile. It's not a simple little grin. It's a smile where you could see him and you can actually believe that this man has just given a part of his soul to this woman. Anyway, I thought it was an elegant episode for such a low budget.
Yeah. Well, honestly, this is for the budget that they had, this is a fairly straightforward story. And to the chat, to D1 Gray, welcome. Thank you for joining. I don't think I've seen you in the chat on one of my streams before, so thank you for tuning in. This episode is relatively straightforward in, well, okay, you've got the plot line with Londo and Adira. You've got the plot line of the negotiations between the Centauri and the Narf over the Euphrates sector, which I think is where Ragesh 3 is at. And then, of course, you've got the story between the sea story with Ivanova and her father and Garibaldi trying to track down who's been using the Gold Channel. And honestly, that's while the part with Londo is interesting and this and everything, the part of the episode that really intrigued me was the whole relationship between Ivanova and Garibaldi, and Ivanova and her father. And though it's a very brief exchange, it's a very powerful exchange between Susan and her father. What's the name? Sophie and Andre, her father, because mother's name was Sophie, because she mentions both their names in that rant or that dressing down of that commander on the advanced Earth Force destroyer, and you see the nurse. You see the nurse there on screen, and she's like, he just came out of the coma, and you see her father, and he's in very, very bad shape. And I think this is actually the only time we ever see Ivanova's father on screen. Father? Yeah, her father. Right. On screen in the entire series. Obviously, this is the one and only time because, well, he's dying. And the actor who played her father just absolutely brought it and just absolutely sold the role and everything. And just in a few minutes' time, everything, you have this very gut-wrenching and very heartbreaking exchange between Susan and her father, and you just, Jess, you said it perfectly. She was on the verge. I think she was on the verge of tears as well and everything, because this was a father from whom she was unfortunately estranged because of her decisions, and he owns up to his shortcomings as a father. He says that he's like, I love you. Or he's like, I respect you, but a father should also show love. And he's like, and that I am ashamed because I haven't.
Well, not only that, remember how he says that he goes, oh, thank you. And she's like, she's trying to calm him, say, it's okay. He's like, no, there's no time. He knows his time is up, and this could be his last time. He's got pain on his chest. He has got unbelievable pain. And like you said, the actor, I don't know who he was. I'd have to look him up. He sold the pain. I mean, when he's like, your mom died, your brother was killed in the war, you chose to go, and he's like, I was so struck with grief that I couldn't get they dealt with their pain. And as you watch the show, and then you really see it, it's like, you can understand they dealt with their pain in different ways. And she was, I mean, just on that brief that dialogue back and forth, that was probably one of the few times I ever see Ivanova show that kind of, I don't want to say weakness. It wasn't weakness, but there's a just, I can't think of the word, but just like she's letting her guard down. She's like, I need to let it go. It could have been, if this had been nowadays, it would have been, I'm not talking to my father, I don't care, blah, blah, whatever. No, this was culturally significant, as many Russians have told me that and I've known a lot of Russians in my life, they are very passionate. People talk about Italians being passionate.
Yes.
Russians, oh my goodness, especially Russian men, they would put some American women to shame, but their passion. I've actually seen Russian men flat out in full lip on lip kiss. They're not gay.
No.
It is a cultural
It's a cultural thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what's so beautiful about the way he did it. And Skaczynski did it real well, because he showed you, even though we're a united Earth, our cultures are still very, very different. You're not going to get everyone to look. Star Trek had a nice idea. This was more the, hey, if we get this, it's going to be more the reality.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing about this series and everything throughout the entirety of it, you get cultural influence from every corner. You get the different cultures of Earth and how the Earth is truly not just the United States and anything, but almost in many ways, the whole Earth has become a melting pot of so many different cultures, and it's just become an amalgam of different ideas and cultures and what have you. But now you're adding in the cultures from outside of Earth with the Narn, with the Centauri, with the Minbari, with the little bit that you get from the other races like the Brakiri, like the Drazi, and so on. And even just as well, you don't really get too much of the Vorlon culture. We don't know if they even have a culture per se. I mean, it could be you could make the argument that they do have a culture of some kind, but we don't get a whole lot about it except for that one random reference to one of the Vorlon gods by Marcus Cole. So
yeah, I always wondered how the hell did he know that? That one was always a little out of my what?
Yeah, and we even have some more time with Talia Winters in this episode because she's working with the negotiations between the Centauri and the Narns, and she walks out of there, and Sinclair walks out behind her and says, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "If they were thinking or emoting any harder, my brain would explode." and to kind of paraphrase what she was saying.
Well, it was so interesting. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
You go ahead. Okay. Yeah, that was actually one of the more interesting layers because you're watching as, they're unhappy. Lando hasn't shown up. Drakkar is there. Veer is playing a video game, for frick's sake. Come on, that was not comic gold, right? He's sitting there talking. And she gets up, Talia gets up, and after she's like, I need to be excused. And, he comes out and she's like, there's so much emotion, it's hard to block. And this is where you start really understanding more about what telepaths are. They're trained to block, but they can only block so much. So being within that distance of such strong emotions, and then she does it at the end. Remember, Psychor has rules. You can only be allowed to do surface thoughts, and they figure out how to play that at the A story, where it was like, don't do this. I'm thinking this probably would have got court as but I think the whole point was to get the girl out of trouble. Yeah. But you get where I'm going there. It was just nice, those layers that they added to the idea of what Psycho was. She's like, and then she's like, I've never heard so many lies. And I'm thinking, it must be interesting to have all those thoughts. I mean, the idea of being a telepath and how to figure out which lie is which. Because we're never given, if she's in a room, how does she differentiate between whose mind is telling what? I mean, we do it by sound, tell a person's voice apart, but we're never actually given an idea on how she's able to tell apart. I mean, if you're looking at someone, okay, that's the line of sight, but if you're dealing with all that emotion, I mean, all those feelings, I mean, she said they were feeling emotions. They were the Psychor, they can feel a lot more than what we realize, and there have to be imagine the effort it takes. I mean, could you imagine the effort to block people out of your mind, to not want to hear them? I mean,
this is all going to be brought up. This is all going to be brought up again. It's good that you're bringing it up because there's an episode in this season where they run into a young girl who most of the time where these people start developing their talents is when they hit puberty and they start hearing all kinds of thoughts. And Talia is real key on expressing what it is they have to go through so that they can keep their sanity instead of being constantly bombarded by all these different thoughts. Because the little kid just gets stressed out and she doesn't know how to deal with it. And it's foreshadowing again. This whole episode is foreshadowing with the telepaths. You get to see a little bit of Garibaldi. He is a bloodhound when it comes to whatever mystery he solved. Even as great as Ivanova is, it didn't matter. He went to where the scent was and found the problem. So it was a great episode on giving little hints, and like you said with the telepaths, here's the doors open. It's the door kicker. This is a little bit of what you're going to see in the future, and then we're going to expand upon it.
Yeah,
like a little cheese on the hook. Take that little bite, and we're going to reel you in.
Yeah. Well,
one of those nice things about, I'm sorry, but I just want to say one of those nice things about being in the military for the 20 years I was, things like that, maybe not at that level, happen, but every now and again, I'm going to be honest, we curtailed the rules and we said, we let something slide for, a person at a time. Sometimes it was a good thing. Sometimes it to bite us in the ass, but I did love the interaction where he said, yep, it was a gremlin. And he's like, I don't think it's going to happen again, do you? And she's like, no. And then he just says, do you want to get a drink? I'm going to do. Maybe another time. There was that little subtle, he offered an olive branch because they have, at this point, remember, Garibaldi makes it very clear. If he doesn't know you, he doesn't trust you. He says that flat out. And So he now is like, okay, he was ready to nail her to the wall if he needed to, but then he realized, okay, I'm not that big of an asshole. I follow the rules, but I'm not going to destroy her career. I'm not going to bring this up for something like this. And he's just like,
she wasn't doing it for frivolous reasons. She was doing it to keep in contact with her father, and because she knew her father's health was failing rather rapidly. And
here I'm going to get a little bit. I mean, this is reading into it, but I do believe it was part of his story where you have to really dive into this one deep, because when you find out that Garibaldi, not 1 year previous, had a relationship with a woman that he was really set on marrying, and he walked away. He didn't have the balls to fight for it because he valued other things equally or too much, or things that drove her away, where now he runs into Ivanova, and she would break down whatever doors were necessary, including the line directly to the president to use it to talk to her dad. Now, him looking at that, you could see, and most people think, he probably thought to himself, I'm a coward compared to her. This woman has more to her personality, more dedication to the people that she loves than I do. I cannot go after that. I cannot hurt her because of what she did, because I wish I had.
Wow, I never gave it that kind of a deep dive now, but you're right. That could have been a real good scenario there. Yeah, he's like, wow, she is doing better than I did, because remember, every time he ran towards happiness, he walked away, or he was a risk taker, and problem was he wasn't good at failure, because as people will, if they ever watch the show, they're going to find out when he fails hard. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, because Garibaldi, he's a bloodhound, but he's got a lot of depth to him, and I think that's true of everybody on the show, because one, you had good actors portraying these parts, but the other thing is they understood their characters, they understood how these characters could evolve, and Straczynski even came in and talked to them and said, hey, this is the direction I'm going to take your character in. And I'm talking hypothetically. He hypothetically could have said, this is the direction I'm going to take your character in. Are you good with this? And the actor or actress could probably say, yeah, this seems logical. This fits for what you've done so far. I'm on board. Go for it. And the amazing thing about not just one of the really great character transformations that we'll see throughout this series, honestly, is Jakar, because it's just, I think, a few episodes after this one that you have the interaction between him and Sinclair's lady friend, Miss Sakai, who's a explorer for interstellar or interplanetary expeditions or whatever it is. I think that's the right name of the organization. And up until this point, Jakar has been portrayed very deceptive, very manipulative, very
hostile,
selfish, hostile to a point, very
xenophobic, even.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that he was selfish, because pretty much everything he did wasn't for anybody else except his world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything he was doing, honestly.
Well, and then the group of hookers he always had in his apartment. But other than that,
yeah, I know.
Well, that's why him and Jakar got along so well.
You mean Londo and Jakar got along?
Yeah, Londo and Jakar got yeah.
The Narn, well, particularly in Jakar was kind of a horn dog for a while there on the show, but. Honestly,
he had the Riker syndrome.
He had the Kirk syndrome.
Hey, Ambassador, did you ever hear the story about the actor who played Jakar?
Andreas Kasoulis? No, I don't know a whole lot about him, unfortunately. So go ahead, share with us, please.
Remember, I was watching this some years ago, and he was hired for the role, and I don't know, timing or placement or whatever, and makeup and stuff. And I remember him saying he was getting a call from his agent. He's like, if you don't commit to this role, you're going to lose it, and this is a 5-year guarantee. So he's like, oh, okay. And he on board, and he's like, I'm so glad I took this role. It's talked about it. That's where I found it. But you know, he almost didn't have the role. He almost lost it. Somebody else could have got it, but thank God nobody else did, because dude, he was. I mean, I love Fugitive.
Yeah, and he's also in. There's another one that he was in. He played he played a villain or whatever. It was with Kurt Russell and Steven Seagal, but Steven Seagal just has like a cameo at the beginning of the movie.
Executive decision.
Yeah, that's it. Because there's somebody else in that. Oh, what's his name? Dang it. Oh, he was kind of a big name actor. Yeah, but yeah, the great thing about Jakar is you never know what he's going to say or how he's going to react, particularly as the series goes on, and especially after that one episode with when he sends those fighters to help to save Sinclair's friend, Miss. Oh, I can't remember her name, but Catherine Sakai, I think it is.
I can't wait till we get that episode, because I can't wait till we get that up, because Adega brought up a good point about his interaction with her, and there's a scene there that is just really good, and I'm gonna discuss it until we get there, but there's that end of that scene that was just like the metaphor was perfect.
Well, and another great thing about this episode that I very much enjoyed was the fact that the attaches got some more screen time. Where, okay, I'm gonna say it. Jakar's attaché was kind of one note, but Veer, we've had some time with, and I think it was you that brought it up. He was playing a video game before the freaking negotiations were started.
No, Jesse did that.
Was it Jesse? Yeah, okay. He was playing a freaking video game. You're the attaché to the ambassador for the Centauri Republic. Act like it. And I love the fact that I think it's Sinclair that yanks or knocks the game out of Veer's hands, and Veer's just sitting there like a like a schoolboy that's been reprimanded by the teacher, and then later on you see Jakar and Dakota playing that same darn game.
Veer is the character that, each one plays a different, you got a redemption role, you got a, different roles that each characters, one that becomes enlightened, one that goes into dark places, all the different types. Veer is the one who comes of age. He grows up from playing a video game at the very beginning to being worthy of being the emperor.
Yeah. Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with you on that one, because Veer is so dang. He's kind of annoying, but he's a lovable kind. Say again, Adega?
I just saying sayonara to your new patron here.
D1 Gray. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. The replay will be up later if you want to catch the rest of it. And if you folks in the chat, if you haven't subscribed to D1 Gray, I did not realize I was actually subscribed to his channel. So go over there, subscribe, and check out some of his content. And of course, check out this guy down here in the bottom and everything. Dega, he's actually got a new audiobook series on his channel called Children of the Directive. So quick plug for that. I have listened to the first couple of first couple of chapters, and I am hooked. You got me hooked again, man. So
what kind of audio are we talking about? You can't leave me hanging here.
Adega's a writer.
Okay, well, I understand that, but what kind of audio?
My own universe.
Oh, he does.
When I write something, it is not. I try and make it as foreign to whatever is out there to begin with, or that is without there. So this is basically human set. Well, this story is about 700 years in the future, but it's all based about a story that starts 1,000 years in the future, and this is kind of a prequel, and it involves one of the main characters.
Oh my God! There's my daughter. Hi, Trisha. I love you. Thank you for showing up. Get your friends to subscribe. Yes, that is my daughter. Keep your hands off unless you want to deal with me.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with him.
You know what? I went to, I was doing something legally requiring getting the permit to carry certain devices concealed. And I was talking with a policeman that was there. And the guy came up with something, and maybe you need to use this, Jesse, because he said when his daughter was growing up and boys would come to the house and stuff, he says, you know what? You're taking my daughter out? And I say, yeah. And he says, well, whatever you do to her, I'm going to do to you. He never had a problem.
Let me tell you this. My daughter's been through her own trials, and actually I got lucky. And this is totally off subject, but I'm gonna plug this just because she got her own place, and we managed apartment. Okay, we managed to get our own apartment, and I came back home, and then this whole coronavirus, and I was like, oh, thank God we got her settled before, and got her all situated, and we had a great time, we had fun, but no man has ever had to worry about me. I said the same thing. You be good to me, I'll be good to you. You're good to my daughter, I'm good to you. You hurt. You better hope your state doesn't allow my gun to come through. Just saying. But she's my 19-year-old. She's my oldest. She's my baby, and I love her with everything in my heart.
Spoken like a good dad.
Yeah,
well, I tried.
Unfortunately, me and the missus, we don't have any kids or anything. I won't go into a whole lot. And to Finn Wolf, welcome. Sorry about that. Finn Wolf, if you don't find it on, I know you, Finn Wolf, I think you follow me on Twitter. Check Twitter because I always post before I go live. So, guys, if you are not getting notifications, because I know YouTube, the Ring on Skeleton Crew, if everything's not coming up, I'm not going to say people are being unsubscribed because, well, other people do that, and I find that disingenuous. just double check your notifications. And if you follow me on Twitter, I always post on there at least 30 minutes or so before I go live and everything. So you know that I'm coming, that it's coming. So, but guys,
yeah, I've been wondering about that.
Well, they've had to trim down their crew that they've got, the staff that they've got there at the headquarters, because unfortunately New York's been a hotbed for the virus, or an epicenter. They've had to self quarantine a lot of their staff and everything, and a lot of stuff's running on automation right now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because we don't want any more people getting sick.
Sidetrack. Sorry, you're talking to the doctor here. I got news from different places around the world, including last night from Madrid, from a person that you guys know who actually deals with some of the healthcare stuff. The people who are getting sick are the ones who are low in vitamin D3. That's why kids aren't getting sick, because they're always out in the sun and playing and doing those type of things. Go to your store, get vitamin D3, and be happy.
Okay.
I didn't know there was a vitamin D3. I just assumed it was vitamin D. Milk.
Because it'll say it in milk. Milk has vitamin D2, and you don't use it. Milk actually isn't really that good for you. You want vitamin D3. Okay. You guys want to be all right? Okay. That's the stuff that'll help you.
Okay. I'll definitely keep that in mind. Adega, thank you. You are, as always, a font of useful information. So
yeah,
yeah, Fennel Wolf. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that comment wholeheartedly.
Yes,
well said.
You said everything that we talked about for the past 30 minutes.
45 minutes.
Minus,
hands down. That is the way it is.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we've pretty much covered this episode relatively well and everything. What do y'all think?
The only other thing I wanted to get into is just the fact that there are races that are still in this universe deal with slavery. And if there's one thing that really gets on my nerves, I mean, there's a couple of things, but that's one of the ones where, because at one point or another, every race on this planet has been subjugated, enslaved, done terrible things to. And that, you want to make me pissed, you bring that up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that even as far as all these other races have advanced, and as far as we've advanced, the Centauri still deal in slavery, where it seems like most every other race has pretty much outlawed it or what have you, but the Centauri still do it. And I've always had a hard time watching this episode and everything, because I like the episode, don't misunderstand me, it's a good episode. But I have always had a difficult time watching this episode because I don't like that. There's a couple of scenes that bother me, and the one in particular is where Trackus has that electrode implanted in his hand, and he starts to torture Adira, and that part always bothered me, because I know the actor's just playing a part, but I don't like the character. He's a scumbag. He deserves to. I know Franklin makes this comment, but this is one character that deserved to be spaced. Shove that bad boy in an airlock and open the outside door.
It's Jess. Funny. I don't know if everybody caught it. This is where I was going with the idea of Centauri being kind of Roman Empire while skipping the Republic, because the Roman Republic had slavery, and then the Roman Empire had slavery. But I've done some history on some different aspects, and I was looking at Roman slavery, and this is why I would compare. Apparently, it was not uncommon, and it may have been in other cultures, to literally contract yourself into involuntary servitude to pay off a debt or a fine or something like that. So it was not uncommon. They got to cancel the contract. So it's possible the movie was she sold herself into indentured servitude to pay off something, whatever the reason. Probably got to win way over her head than she thought she would have. But I looked at the history, and this was not an uncommon practice for people to do in ancient times. Whereas every other civilized society that we see in Babylon 5 has gotten rid of this barbaric style of slavery, indentured servitude, servant. The Centauri Republic and some of these lesser known races apparently still embrace that form of slavery, indentured servitude. And it sucks, but it was interesting to get that realization, like, people actually entered into contracts on this. I'm like, and then I guess this is going to sound completely strange, but maybe it's a comparison to what I went into when I joined the military. Not near the same thing, but I agreed to rules, restrictions, and regulations. Not near the level of slavery, but, just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Jess, I know the history you're talking about and what have you, the misses of history buff as well as I am and everything. And in a lot of our own ancient cultures and everything, slavery was looked at in various forms, but ultimately, by and large, a lot of the nations of the world and everything have outlawed it. Now, does it still go on? Unfortunately, yeah, and I think it should be early stamped out. And maybe one of these days we'll get that right. I hope.
God,
I hope we get that right. But yeah, this episode has been. This was a fun. I don't want to say this has been a fun episode, but this has been a fun. It's been fun talking with you guys about this and getting your perspectives on. And as always, I appreciate it. So, any other thoughts, Adega or Jesse, that you want to add?
The only thing I would add is just I really get annoyed when I hear the whole thing about, the first season's always the weakest. No, if you do your show right, the first season should be your best, or one of your, or it should be on par. And at this point, just a few episodes in, the guy had me. I remember watching UPN and watching this, and I was more glued. You know me, I was a huge Star Trek fan. I would have, if they had put Babylon 5 and DS9 at that time on the same slot, I would have gone Babylon 5.
Absolutely. I totally agree, but you guys know how I feel about the show anyway.
Yes.
It's a great show.
It is a great show.
One thing, I was on another stream, I can't remember, a couple weeks ago, and this guy named Script Doctor, if you know him.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He was on the show, and I asked a question about, because he's in the business, some of the influences on the actors, whether it be, the directors, whether it be the writers, or this, or that, or the other. And when he came across, he explained a lot of stuff, the differences between a movie and television. The thing is this episode or any of these episodes, usually the director has nothing to do with the writing. What they do is they make the actors or actresses do their part, and whichever, and I'm going to have to look it up because I don't know, but whichever director did this episode did a phenomenal job of getting emotion out of every single character.
Well, fun fact, I actually remember who did I remember who directed this episode, and he has a connection to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was Bruce Seth Green, or just Seth Green.
Well,
no way.
Yep.
He did a great job.
He did.
Wow.
Seth Green. Bruce, well, he in the credits it goes by Bruce Seth Green, but yeah, it's Seth Green that directs this episode. And he actually did several episodes for B5 throughout the entire run, as far as I remember.
Well, and I'm going to have to look that up for sure.
Say one more time.
Have to look that up now.
Say one more time, Adega.
He was worth his salt, that's for sure.
He's a good director, and he's a good creative just in general. I mean, he's one of the guys that's responsible, whether you like it or hate it. I love Robot Chicken.
Yes,
I love Robot Chicken. I'll still watch the shorts and everything on YouTube. Anything. If I want a good laugh, I'll go find Robot Chicken, and especially the Star Wars or anything really.
That really is surprising.
What do you mean they blew up the Death Star?
Who's they?
Oh,
What's an aluminum falcon?
Well,
I
who's
threw the
left?
Senate at him. The entire Senate.
True story. He made me laugh so hard it came out of my nose.
Go for Palpatine.
Go
Go for Papa Palpatine.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
Where have you been? You've been searching for a week to get a signal. Maybe you must smell like feet wrapped in burnt
Leathery bacon.
Burnt feet wrapped in
Hard
leathery bacon. Now you get your 7 foot tall asthmatic butt back here before I tell everybody how much of a whiny witch you were when Panda Mommy or Panda Bear, whatever her name was. All right.
That really was one of the best.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yes, it was. So, well, folks, I think that's where we're going to wrap this stream up. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to my moderator, Shea Storm Dragon. Thank you for being here to Fennel Wolf, Stone Loki, Axner Comics, D1 Gray. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit those like and share buttons if you're new to my channel. You catch us on the replay. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We will be continuing our review of Babylon 5 Season 1 next Monday at 12. Anything we'll be covering the episode titled Infections, so be sure and tune in for that. And this Wednesday, I will be starting a new series. I haven't decided if I'm going to stream it or if I'm going to do pre-recorded videos, but I'm covering cult classics from the Disney Vault. And that's going to include animation, live action, and everything across the board. And then, of course, this weekend, this Saturday night and everything, on the ambassadorial wing, we're going to cover a pair of movies that I have been sitting on for a little while now. And I think while we're still all under semi-quarantine, this is a good one. We're going to be covering Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. So be sure and tune in for all of that. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. I know I certainly have. So, yeah, Finn Wolf post it and everything. I'm on Central Time, so if I'm an hour behind Eastern, obviously. So, but until next time, folks, this is the Ambassador signing off.